Anyone in line does have a chance to put their ballot in there, but we don't have a long line at Honolulu Hale at the moment.
And let's go to West Oahu at Kapolei Hale, where the ballot box is there. It's looking pretty empty right now. But of course, we want to make sure that everyone has a chance to vote. But officially, the polls close at 7 o'clock. Now, we've had huge lines in the past, but tonight it is relatively quiet.
We have team coverage with our reporters out live across the state. Daryl Huff is at the state capitol. Stephanie Lum is at Honolulu Hale. Jonathan Masaki is at Kapolei Hale.
Arlene Kawano is downtown at the headquarters of Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi. Ashley Nagaoka and Mark Carpenter are on the Big Island of Hawaii, covering the Hawaii County mayoral race. And Chelsea Davis is on Maui.
And back here in Honolulu, Hawaii News Now political analyst Colin Moore is here to provide us with some in-depth analysis.
Colin, great to have you. First of all,
be here.
What are the hot races that you're looking at tonight?
All right, let me highlight two to start off. The Big Island mayoral race is huge. Incumbent Mayor Mitch Roth has some real challenges from candidates like Kimo Alameda, Junior Tupa'i, Briani Kobayashi. This, I expect, is going to be one of the most competitive races we watch tonight. The second one that a lot of folks are watching is District 25 House race. That's Kim Koko Iwamoto against Speaker Scott Saiki. This has been the race where the most money has been spent of any House district this time. And of course, there's a tremendous amount that hinges on the outcome, because if Speaker Saiki loses tonight, that will shake up the entire leadership of the State House.
A lot of interesting races, and I'm so glad you're here to help us figure it all out this evening. So right now we're waiting for the first results to come in. They'll typically wait to make sure all the polling places have gone through their very last voters. So we don't exactly know when those numbers come, but we're going to bring them to you the moment they do come through. Let's take a look at some of the races, starting from the top. Our congressional delegation, we have 3 seats on the ballot this year. Senator Mazie Hirono and Representative Ed Case both have challengers. Representative Jill Tokuda does not.
And that's right, Colin. When you look at these races, I mean, obviously there are a lot of people, let's say, running in the Senate race against Mazie Hirono, but no one really known, except for, I have to say the name, Shelby Pikachu Billionaire. He's an independent.
That's right. I mean, you know, it's very difficult to run against an incumbent senator, of course, here in Hawaii. So, you know, there are no major challengers, the sort of people who could marshal that amount of money to run against a sitting senator. So I don't think we're terribly surprised to see this. You know, great for those folks who, of course, are exercising their democratic rights, but it looks like no member of our congressional delegation is going to face much of a contest tonight.
At the city and county level, top of the ballot, we have our incumbent mayor, Rick Blangiardi, along with our prosecutor, Steve Alm. No opponents for Mr. Alm. Rick Blangiardi does have a few, but he is pretty dug in terms of support and fundraising.
You know, this is pretty unusual. I mean, there's never been a time when we've had so few contestants for this race, this mayoral race.
And the thing is, it's really about money. And one of the things that we've been wondering is, because it is so expensive to run a campaign, many of these candidates have their own personal wealth. And just for a sign, it's $40 to $50, and it takes a lot of money to run these campaigns. That's right.
I mean, we have fewer candidates running than we have had in recent years. And I suspect that's one of the reasons working families have a hard time marshaling the money to run for office, or asking their friends to provide that money. You know, the other thing that I think might be going on here for some of our down ticket races is folks are worried about the spotlight. There's been so many brutal takedowns in social media from candidates, and I think they're really worried about putting their families through that.
Yeah, it's true. And all of the candidates who put themselves out there have to deal with this to some extent, and we want to honor every single person who's put their name on the ballot this year. It takes some guts.
Let's go again to the Hawaii County mayor's race. Obviously, Mitch Roth is the incumbent. Briani Kobayashi, she's the general manager of the SEP, Kimo Alameda, and also Junior Tupa'i. One of the things, Colin, you're saying that you think Kimo Alameda is going to do really well in this election.
You know, I expect that he will. Kimo Alameda got 2 crucial endorsements from the public sector unions, HGEA and UPW. Those, you know, labor has a tremendous amount of influence in local politics here in Hawaii, and that's unusual. Usually those big unions back the incumbents. And one of the reasons I understand they chose to back Kimo Alameda and not the incumbent mayor this time is that Mayor Mitch Roth has been reluctant to provide high levels of hazard pay for public employees who work during COVID. They gave their endorsement to Kimo Kimo Alameda. Kimo Alameda also has been running a great campaign. He's a tremendously charismatic guy. He reminds me a little bit of Billy Kenoi.
So in these mayoral contests, a candidate who gets 50% of the vote and won will win outright in the primary. Perhaps unlikely on the island of Hawaii tonight. And so the top two finishers would go on to a runoff in the general.
That's right, and I think that's what we're watching. And I think if Mayor Roth doesn't end up #1 tonight, if he ends up #2, that's going to be a tremendous blow to his campaign.
Let's take a look at Senate District 23. That's on the North Shore. Former Senator Clayton He is challenging Ben Schaefer. Neither of them are incumbents, but Clayton He, obviously name recognition. He might have some political baggage. Ben Schaefer is a community leader there as well.
Yeah, I think your assessment is right there. I mean, Clayton He has been involved in politics for decades. He's been in the House, he's been in the Senate, he's been on OHA. Most people up there know who Clayton He is, but that can cause some problems too. If you've been in public life that long, you sometimes make some enemies. I know he spent a lot of money on this race, so he's very interested in getting that seat back. Now, Ben Schaefer is a little bit less well known, but he does have the backing of a lot of former senators there. I mean, he has some good endorsements. I think this is going to be a close race.
Both of these gentlemen are interested in finding a solution for Kamehameha Highway along the road there on the coastline. It's been crumbling for years. It's going to cost a lot of money for some kind of a long-term solution, and they say that is their priority. Now, whoever wins on the Democratic ticket will be facing Senator Brenton Awa, the incumbent right now, on the Republican ticket. He's running unopposed for the GOP. He's been in for 4 years now, freshman senator, and he is ready for whoever comes his way.
That's right. And, you know, Brenton Awa, those of us who've watched his career know that he's very outspoken as well. He's a bit of a maverick in the legislature. I think a lot of people are interested to see what happens if Clayton He wins this race and has to campaign against Brenton Awa. Both of those guys are known for not pulling any punches.
And when you say maverick, he's really a solo act. To Republicans on the Senate side, and they're not necessarily buddy-buddy, Senator Favela, but Brenton Awa has said that he is not going to do any fundraising. He's not doing any campaigning. He's just going to do his job. Yeah,
that's what his supporters like about him, for sure. Now, perhaps one of the tightest races tonight might be the race between the sitting House Speaker and Koko Iwamoto.
That's right. So this is the third time these folks have gone up against each other. The last two times, Speaker Scott Saiki only won by less than 200 votes. So this is a tremendously close race. A huge amount of money has been spent in this race, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this district is a particularly difficult district to campaign in. It's Kaka'ako, lots of high rises, tough to go door to door. It really means you're dependent on mailers, a lot of new folks moving into that neighborhood. So Scott Saiki is really fighting for his life with this race, and Kim Koko Iwamoto is a tremendously strong campaigner. You know, the other thing I'd say about this race, too, is it's very ideological. Kim Koko presents herself as a strong progressive, someone very much to the left. We don't get a lot of ideological races here, but this is one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe they had a difference of about 160 votes last time, and similar 2 years before that. So this is round 3 in their matchup. Going to be interesting.
Yeah, if you live in that district, you've got a stack of mailers, because that's really the only way to campaign. And Kim Koko Iwamoto very much self-funded, so those mailers are very expensive, especially at this time.
Okay, another tight one we are watching is in Leeward, Oahu, and that is, pardon me, let's go to District 37 and on a Democratic ticket here. A familiar name in Kenny Noy, the son of the late Senator Danny Noy, and Trish LaChica, who is the incumbent here, but she's only been in office since last year when she was appointed by the governor.
And she is the vice chair of the Education Committee, so obviously a lot of education issues coming to a head during this first week of school. The lack of bus routes, she was very outspoken. Kenny Noy, obviously the son of Senator Daniel E. Noy, you ask him, are you running on your dad's name? And he says no, but you go to his website, you see him and his dad and his family all over the website.
Well, look, Kenny Noe would be foolish not to bring up his dad, such a legendary political figure here in Hawaii. This is a very close race. The spending is very similar. There's only about a $10,000 difference. And I'm very close with endorsements. Kenny Noe got some endorsements from HSTA. Trish LaChica, though, has been running a very strong campaign. She has an endorsement from Governor Josh Green. So this could go either way. You know, we don't have public polling for these races. So this is one where who turns out is really going to matter.
And one more race before we get to our live reporters around the state In District 22 in Leeward, Oahu, this is between Cedric Gates and Stacey Lynn Eli on the Democratic side to replace Senator Miley Shimabukuro.
Yeah, this is one of the more interesting races as well. So Miley Shimabukuro resigned. There was some controversy with Governor Green about who should be appointed to that race. He ultimately decided not to appoint either of the candidates to make it a fair fight. So Stacey Lynn Eli, Cedric Gates. I think the favorite here is probably Cedric Gates. He's spent a lot of money, has a lot of name recognition. But Stacey Lynn Eli also was a former state representative. You know, these Leeward districts have been very competitive. I think if you're driving out there, you see a ton of signs. People are really involved. You know, this is an area where we see very active campaigning.
Now let's go to the voter service centers and let's go live to Stephanie Lum, who's at Honolulu Hale, for a look at what's happening there. Stephanie, what can you tell us?
Hey, Mahea, actually nothing really is happening here because, boy, right at 7 o'clock, election officials wasted no time in just closing down the area. You can see there used to be a lot of cones here for the drive-through ballot drop box area, but they've closed that. They wheeled away all the ballot boxes here. So if you know somebody who is heading this way, hoping to drop off their ballot and is stuck in traffic, I'm sorry, the deadline has arrived. Minutes ago, there was a lot of cheering, though, and screams from drivers who were just relieved to make the deadline. We didn't spot anybody running to the main ballot box over there in the distance, but election officials took their master key and sealed it. You can see the big red sign, ballot box is closed. Now, earlier today, there was a steady stream of drive-through voters who came down when the voter service center opened at 7 a.m. Elections officials tell me there were no major problems at the polls, but in-person voting was very quiet. That's to be expected with 97% of registered voters voting by mail this primary. But despite the activity here today, city election officials say voter turnout is still expected to be low.
All around, and you talk to some of the political analysts out there, this is going to be a low turnout election. Through Friday or yesterday, we actually had 150,000 persons vote by mail, but that is considerably less than the 228,000 we had in the primary election 2 years ago.
If you don't vote, you can't grumble. So at least I'm voting. The people that I don't like are in office, I can grumble because I voted.
Well, I was a candidate 2 years ago. I'm not running this term, but I'm teaching my kids their civic duty, just practicing voting, and hopefully they will do that when they grow up.
There are countries where people don't have the right to vote. We have the right to vote. That's the only thing you can do. If not, don't grumble.
That's right. Vote or don't grumble. Now, from here, all of the ballots will be transported to Honolulu's airport, where the city's elections division facility is located. That's where they will validate all of the ballots. And from there, those ballots will be turned over to state elections officials. They will transport them over to the state capitol where they will be tabulated. All right, let's turn things over now to my colleague, Jonathan Masaki, who's standing by live at Kapolei Hale. Jonathan.
Well, good evening, Stephanie. Good evening, everyone. Like you said, Stephanie, promptly at 7 o'clock, the drop box behind me right there was sealed, and that says voting has now closed. Now, as we pan to this van right here, you see that is the official van that has the ballots. They just took it out of that box a few minutes ago. It was, guarded by a police officer here, and they really had 3 people kind of really making sure that this was done above board. But I felt like I was kind of like at the Olympics just before the last 3 minutes of voting took place. You saw a mad sprint of people coming in from over here.
Yeah, well, there are.
Now, if you were actually here before 7 and got into the doors of Kapolei Hale before 7 o'clock, you were allowed to continue your voting. In fact, there's still a few people in there. So officials here say if you made it in before 7 o'clock, you're going to obviously be allowed to continue voting till you get that all wrapped up. But like Stephanie was saying, the election officials here in Kapolei tell us that it was a very slow turnout this past 2 weeks. Today, they did see an influx of voters coming in the morning time. Then during the midday, it kind of branched out a little bit. Towards the afternoon, we've been here for about 3 hours now. We've seen, I would say, a steady stream of people coming in to cast their votes or dropping their envelopes out. So it's officially done now. The votes have been taken from here. There's a few people still in Kapolei Hale casting their votes for primary 2024. I'm Jonathan Masaki at Kapolei Hale for Hawaii News Now. Back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your live report.
Okay, time to go to the Big Island now, where one of our hot races is underway in the mayoral contest. We have Mark Carpenter and Ashley Nagaoka standing by. We'll start with you, Mark, at Mayor Mitch Roth's camp.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, a lot of eyes on this race right now and a lot of anticipation for that first printout. We're here in Hilo Town at the primary election night headquarters for Mayor Mitch Roth. Roth seeking another 4 years in this position. Now, a lot of contenders, as Colin talked about, a lot of big names going into this race, but Roth and his team feeling very confident going into tonight. They cite successes in a number of different arenas, including infrastructural upgrades after years of deferred maintenance throughout the county, addressing the affordable housing, addressing the homelessness crisis, and also helping Big Island small businesses recover financially from the COVID pandemic. So a lot of highlights. We had an opportunity to speak with the mayor earlier this evening about his feelings and about also his accomplishments over the last several years. Let's listen in.
Our county workers, our team has done some amazing things. We came in during COVID, and so the question was, were we going to be able to survive financially? We have our best bond rating ever right now. We've looked at the things that we've done with our roads. We've doubled the amount of roads that we've been paving right down the street from where we are right here. You can see that there's roads being paved. We have a lot of projects. We want to see them through to fruition. We have our wastewater facilities. We have housing. We have our permitting system, which is better than it was, but still not where we want it to be. A lot of projects that we're working on, we just want to see them through.
You just heard from the mayor, a lot of optimism, a lot of positivity, not very anxious, more so anticipation on what those first results are going to show in that printout. And also earlier this week, I spoke with the team about the feeling that there are several candidates and contenders in this race. They say if you look back at 2020, at that primary, there were 14 other challengers before the mayor went up against Ikaika Marzo in a runoff and won the seat. One of the contenders tonight, a 33-year-old businesswoman, Brianni Kobayashi, very successful. Our very own Ashley Nagaoka is live at her event tonight. Ash.
Aloha, Mark. Yes, definitely a different vibe here at the Kobayashi campaign. It's a very intimate gathering with just a handful of close family and friends, but definitely lots of nerves here as we wait for that first printout. Now, Kobayashi is a well-respected businesswoman. She's a tourism leader. She's the general manager at the SCP Hilo Hotel, as well as the owner of the Keaukaha General Store. This is her first time running for public office. She believes the Roth administration is not reflecting the needs of the people, and she wants to rebuild trust in leadership. She says if elected, she will be a leader who not only listens, but hears people.
We went into every single community on the Big Island, and we started in Ho'onaunau. We rotated across all the island, listening, learning, hearing their needs and concerns. And the second part was dedicated to building trust and being transparent. Thank you to everyone who supported us this far, who believed in us, who encouraged us, and even those who didn't. It's pushed us, it's motivated us to be stronger, to be resilient, and we love our community. We love Hawaii County, and I hope I get a chance to show what we can do together.
Now, Kobayashi's priorities include increasing access to home ownership, education, healthcare, and making safer communities. While she does support science and education, she says she does not support TMT on Mauna Kea. Now, again, this is a very crowded field with an incumbent in the mix, but she has secured a very rare endorsement from former mayor and Big Island legend Harry Kim. He says she has the qualities of a good leader. She's trusted, she's well respected, and he believes she is the best person for the job. So we will see how much weight that endorsement has once that first printout comes out, and if Kobayashi was successful in getting her message to the people of the Big Island. Guys, back to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Ashley. It's interesting that Ashley talked about the TMT controversy, though it might be out of people's minds right now, but when you ask each candidate on the Big Island, Mayor Mitch Roth says he supports it. Brianni Kobayashi says she doesn't support it. Junior Tupa'i kind of had sort of a middle-of-the-road answer, and Kimo Alameda also had a middle-of-the-road answer.
Yeah, this is always obviously one of the hottest issues on the Big Island, and for a lot of folks, that really is a voting issue for them. But I've heard them talk about a lot of other issues, and infrastructure is the top of folks' minds there, of course, and improving the permitting process. Folks on the Big Island are hit very hard by the cost of living, so I heard a lot of those issues being brought up, as well as the crisis they've had with some of their wastewater treatment issues.
And the TMT issue will be back. They are still pursuing Mauna Kea as the place to build it, and there are still challenges that are pending. And so even though it has gone from the headlines recently, it will be back. Let's get into the Honolulu mayor's race now. We have our Lynn Kawano standing by at Rick Blangiardi's campaign tonight. Lynn.
Ke'ahi, a very celebratory atmosphere out here. Rick Blangiardi walked in, the mayor walked in, and everybody started talking to him. He did say a few words. He's not going to get ahead of himself. He's not going to any way say that he has the wind behind him or wind behind him on the sails. He is very celebratory, though. I'm going to let you just see the crowd. I don't know if you can see the crowd, but people are taking turns talking about Blangiardi to him. Sam Moku was just speaking a little while ago, as well as his chief of staff, Andrew Sugg, Jim Ireland from EMS. A lot of people have been talking about the last 4 years, but also talking about the next 4 years. Now, that first printout, they are still waiting for it, but they are expected to have a very big lead when that printout drops. Mayor Blangiardi has raised $2.2 million in the last 4 years. All of his 3 competitors combined barely raised $1,000. So he definitely has the financial backing. Again, this is just a celebratory atmosphere as they wait for that first printout to come out. But we do expect to hear from him very quickly. Keahi, back to you.
We'll return to the music and more in just a moment.
In right now. This is the first printout. And before we get it up on our screen, we just wanted to verbally tell you Mayor Mitch Roth is in the lead right now at almost 38%, followed by Kimo Alameda at nearly 27%, followed by Briani Kobayashi, 19%. Colin, I got to say, you were right that Kimo Alameda was going to do very well, at least in this first printout.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see these results. We knew that he was backed by strong unions. Kimo Alameda has been running a great campaign. I was over in Hilo in early June, and I saw about 100 folks waving signs for him. I'm not surprised to see these numbers as they come in.
Yeah, and just so you know, the numbers are not officially on our screen, but again, they're actually right there. They're populated. Mitch Roth again, Mayor Mitch Roth, 39%, Kimo Alameda, 28%, Briani Kobayashi, 20%, and Junior Tupa'i, 11%. Again, Colin, not surprising for you.
Not surprising. I'd also say that Briani Kobayashi is doing a little better than I expected. That's a very respectable result for her.
And so we have our technicians working to get all the numbers in on all the hot races we brought you. And we're going to get to the Honolulu mayor's race next. As expected, Rick Blangiardi is in a commanding lead right now, but Chun James actually in second right now. She has pulled about 19,000 votes, followed by Carl Dixon, Duke Burgoyne.
19,000 votes. Obviously, Mayor Rick Blangiardi in the clear lead, but 19,000 votes for someone who had very little money. That's really significant, right, Colin?
It is significant. I mean, look, Chun James has run for a number of offices. I want to give her a lot of credit for stepping up to make this a somewhat competitive election. I think she's pretty well known in the community. And also she's capturing some votes of folks who may not like Mayor Blangiardi for whatever reason, or are looking for someone else to vote for. But no, we're not surprised by this result at all.
Blangiardi, though, with 72% of this first printout, 115,000 votes. So he is clearing ahead, heading to re-election here, his second term as Honolulu's mayor. And we ask for your forgiveness as we try to interpret these numbers. They come through all at once, and we're talking about dozens and dozens of races on a little tiny online printout. So we're trying to make sense of it ourselves. I can tell you the total registration for this primary was 839,000 people, and so far the turnout's 241,000. That's 29%.
One race that I want to highlight that I'm seeing right here is this District 25. This is Scott Saiki and Kim Koko Iwamoto. At least the number I'm seeing right now shows Iwamoto ahead 49% to 44%. So that's very, very significant.
Very close still.
Yeah. So this is anyone's race still.
Yeah, that was the big one we were all watching, and to have Iwamoto in the lead after the first printout, really significant. We have 2 more printouts expected before this thing is finalized. Probably going to be tomorrow morning till we know for sure, but to have her already out in front.
And one more I'll highlight, which we talked about, is the District 23. This is Clayton He and Ben Schaefer. Ben Schaefer is leading right now, 50% to it looks like 40%. That's a significant lead. Again, too close to call still, but significant for someone who's running for the first time against one of Hawaii's best-known politicians.
And it's also significant because Clayton He had statewide advertising. We all saw the television commercials. Also, Briani Kobayashi in the Hawaii County Mayor's race also had statewide commercials, and especially during this time, it's not cheap to put a commercial on statewide television right now.
And also, as you can see, the percentages seem wider than the actual numbers when you look at it. They're only separated by a couple of hundred there. And so that's the nature of these small districts with low turnout and few people voting. Of course, one of the big races going to be watching all night long on the Big Island.
That's right. Let's go live to Mark Carpenter, who has Mayor Mitch Roth right there. Mark, what can you tell us?
Thank you very much, Mahea. Yes, we're getting the reaction right now from moments ago, the first printout dropping. Mayor Mitch Roth. Mayor, your reaction to the first slate of numbers?
You know, we're pleased with where we're at. You know, the county has been doing a great job. We have a lot of people in the county that have been putting it out, so it's been a we thing. I think that people notice that the roads are getting paved, that, you know, we're doing better in so many different places. Again, when we started, the question was, we're going to be able to keep the county afloat financially. We have our best bond rating ever. We're fixing our parks. We're doing a lot of things that, you know, people are, you know, wanting. So we feel pretty good. We think that, you know, we knew that we had a group of people. We knew that that was going to dilute the batch, but we feel good where we're at.
Yeah, about that, what was your expectation going into tonight?
Well, you know, we know that we had a lot of people who are very popular that we were going against. But, you know, at the end of the day, this job is not about being popular. It's about getting stuff done. And I think that people also see that we are getting things done. And that's what I think is important to people. What were your thoughts on the turnout and the actual number of votes that we saw in that first printout? Well, I was hoping for a lot more numbers, of course, but you know, I've seen this is my 4th time going through this, and so I feel pretty comfortable where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm. And with that, what is your message to the people of the Big Island about what the next 4 years you hope to accomplish with another term? You know, my mother's always told me, leave things better than the way you found it, and we're much better off from where we took over 4 years ago, and I think in another 4 years we're going to be much better off than where we are now. And so we got a lot of big projects we're working on, and we really want to get those projects done. Thank you very much for your time, Mayor. I'll let you, spend the next several hours as we look ahead to what's going to be held in the next printout, right? So much anticipation for the first one. We'll see what the numbers hold for the rest of the night. Until then, reaction from the first printout of results here at Mitch Roth's election night headquarters. We'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Mark. And let's go live to Daryl Hoff, who's doing all the number crunching right now. Daryl, you heard some of the early numbers. What can you tell us?
Well, you guys have reported the big races. There's no question that Rick Blangiardi is headed for 4 more years. That was an absolute blowout as expected. June James put up a good fight for someone who only spent $10,000. I'd love to see how much dollars each of them spent for votes. Another very close race is a very interesting race out in Waianae. This is the race for the state Senate seat that was vacated by Miley Shubabukuro. Her heir apparent was Cedric Gates, a state house member. He was running against Stacelyn Eli, who is a very popular politician out there on that side. She's run before. They're only 78 votes apart right now. 78 votes apart. In the Iwamoto-Saiki race, Iwamoto is ahead, but by about 200 votes. Now, in the last 2 elections, we've seen this pattern out, but in both of those elections, Saiki was ahead at the beginning by about 200 votes. As the votes came in, they started to close very slightly in Iwamoto's favor. The fact that she's starting out ahead with the printouts yet to come out is a very good sign for her. The other thing that I'm watching now, I want to check on is the council races in Honolulu, and one of the more interesting ones is the I have to find it here. But anyway, we'll be checking on the council races. There's really only one challenge going on. That's Esther Kia-Aina. And maybe if Colin can check and see how Esther Kia-Aina is doing. The issue there was she was the only one of the council members who's running this year who is not unopposed. And it was primarily because she was the only one that took that humongous pay raise. So we're interested to see how that pay raise plays out in these races. But let me tell you a little bit about what's ahead now. Okay, this printout had about what we could expect to be 85% of the vote. The next printout, which we're expecting about 10:30, will have only about 3 to 5% more votes. It will only be the folks who have walked in and voted in the last few weeks at the walk-in centers. And so that will be a very small printout. It probably won't change the outcomes that we're seeing here. That next printout will have to come early in the morning.
Great insight. Thanks so much, Daryl. Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi is already piled high with lei. Let's go to our Lynn Kawano now, standing by live downtown.
Yeah, Keahi, and joining me now right now is Mayor Rick Blangiardi. The numbers just dropped. You can hear everybody celebrating out here. Mayor, what do you have to say after seeing the numbers?
You know, I'm kind of speechless in this moment, and you've known me a long time. You know, there's been a lot of anticipation about this and a lot of thought, but also a lot of hard work. So, you know, we prepared for this election to make every effort we possibly could, not knowing who we might run against. So I know we've worked hard, but beyond that, our team has worked really hard. I think the community has seen that, and I'm just excited. You know, the reality of it has to hit. I kept thinking, what would I feel like in this moment, you know, with some strong anticipation. And so I just feel really grateful. I feel honored. I've said oftentimes, this job is the challenge of a lifetime, the responsibility of a lifetime, and the privilege of a lifetime, all rolled into one. And so I'm feeling all of that right now in this moment. What I am really excited about, though, is the foundation that we've established. We started off 4 years ago in a really deep hole, brought about by COVID and everything else to start. Everything that we've done over the last 4 years, where we are at this point in time, I'm going to tell my team in a little while, we're going to pick up the pace here in the second half. I feel really, really good.
Yeah, when you talk about picking up the pace, what is it that you want to focus on?
Well, we're going to continue to focus on housing. We had an incredible meeting just yesterday. We've made a lot of inroads. We've done a lot of innovative things there to get the city to be a player in housing. Clearly, our homeless challenge is top of mind with us. You might have heard Jim Ireland talk about it. We're collaborating with the state. We're about to do really unprecedented work that, quite honestly, we might have begun last fall, which was our target, because it requires the state. But then when Maui happened, it kind of derailed everything. You know, we're going to continue to really work on DPP because it's so important for economic recovery. Public safety, major. I mean, these are all we talked about it a couple of years ago, and one of the things that we learned in the Bloomberg Harvard City Leadership Initiative thing we're part of about the wicked problems. It's not just a Boston term, it's an academic term. That's what we took on, was those intractable problems that plague municipalities everywhere, but also here in Honolulu. As idyllic as it is to live here and everything that's so good about our home, we've had these long-standing problems. This team came in committed to do something about that. I love the momentum. I love the traction we've gotten to date. I think the public can see that. We're looking forward to just taking it to a whole different level.
You know, your opponents did not match you in any way close to fundraising, but they certainly were vocal. Chun James was pretty vocal. Some of them called you names like a bully. You know, what are you going to say about that as you look at the next 4 years?
You know, I've had no time or attention for that. Be candid with you, I've worked my whole life, and nobody's ever called me a bully in a professional setting, ever. You know, and so I don't even know where that came from. I've not talked to her. You know, this debate, this race had no debates or anything like that. I think it's fair to say I've not done one name. I've not called anybody one name. I wouldn't have done that anyway. So, look, I know who I am. I'm really clear about that. I know from a leadership standpoint my responsibility, what that means. If you heard my team a little while ago talking about what it means for us to work together, I'm grounded in that, and that's what I say. And so I believe that in the next 4 years, I would say this. You know, I know that on the very last day and the last hour, when this comes to an end, that I'm going to feel very proud about what we did over the course of 8 years, but I also know there's still going to be a lot more to do. Toward that end, we want to take on all the tough stuff to really make a difference and set this city on the right course.
Yeah, an emotional Mayor Rick Blangiardi. You know, you're going to be 81 when your next term is up.
81
yeah,
or 82.
81 or 82. You've got to be slowing down by now, man.
I keep reading these articles like 80's the next 40 or whatever. I don't know.
Is that what they say?
I hope so, because that's how I feel. I will tell you, this job, as demanding as it is, it's energizing because we're doing such meaningful stuff for the people who live here. For me, this has been a lifetime of this is really, you know, I've loved Hawaii from the time I arrived in 1965, and strangely enough, through various iterations, back to my playing and coaching days and all the years in media and now as mayor, it has loved me back. You cannot do enough in that kind of dynamic, and that's where we come from.
All right, Mayor Rick Blangiardi, he's going to get 4 more years. Thank you, Mayor. You know, it is a celebration. Originally, it was a celebration. Now it's an even bigger celebration out here in downtown Honolulu. Reporting live, I'm Lynn Kuwana, Hawaii News Now.
All right, thank you so much, Lynn. So you heard it here, 80 is the new 40, and I guess that makes us teenagers.
That's good. We're just babies, right?
Well, there you go. Rick Blangiardi, confident after 4 years, planning 4 more, really revved up for that. A couple of the quick headlines so far in this evening. Kim Koko Iwamoto ahead of Scott Psyche in the representatives race. On the Senate side, Cedric Gates barely ahead of Stacey Lynn Eli. And on the race for mayor on the Big Island, Mitch Roth and Kimo Alameda appear headed to a runoff in November.
Stay with us. We're headed for a short break. But after that, we have Governor Josh Green, fresh from Maui, for a quick interview. Stay with us.